Classic Restos is proudly brought to you by Shannons, insurance for motoring enthusiasts. Hare and Forbes Machinery House, Pace Farm, Hero Hoists, and Martin's Panel Masters.
Hey, feel like a 3-day drive north of Sydney? Or perhaps an hour's drive southwest of Cairns in North Queensland is easier? Where are we and what are we here for? Well, the place is Atherton. It's a car thing, and you're about to see more on this week's episode of Classic Restos. You know, sometimes it's just good to get out and travel. And if it's car-related purposes, well, that just may well seal the deal, right? Regional Australia is known for putting on local classic events that soothe the taste buds of the motoring enthusiast. An attractive 3-course menu awaits you here at this event because there are classic cars, bikes, and a favourite for many, and that is, there is stuff for sale. G'day, I'm Fletch, and welcome to the 7th Annual Atherton Car, Bike and Swap Meet. And the nice side to this event is that all proceeds are off to support school chaplaincy to help the kids. This event is proudly supported by Atherton Auto Wreckers, Tableland Batteries, Shannons, and a list of other valued sponsors from around this region here in Queensland, all setting out to help a great cause. Getting straight into it, young bloke stuck in an older bloke's body. How you doing, Bill?
Oh, I'm very good, thanks, Fletch.
That's good. You're out of your skin. You're jumping, aren't you?
Not really, no, not this morning.
Why?
Early start.
Oh, come on, Bill. It's a bit early for you, is it?
Very early, yeah.
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 Any guy that restores a 1963 compact Fairlane, has a 302 in there, strokes it out to 347. You can't tell me you don't want to get up of a morning and drive that, Bill?
Oh, driving it, yes, but at the moment it's just on display.
Well, look, it's been quite a while in the build, hasn't it?
It has. 7 years. Started off as 4 donor cars to get this one.
Yep. Isn't that nice?
The end result is, but
Yeah.
along the way it was a bit concerning.
The other 4 gave their lives.
They did.
Yeah.
Most of them were rust buckets to start with.
Yeah. It's kind of good, though, because nothing really is going to happen with those rust buckets, as we put it, and to get one nice car like this out of it, I reckon, mission accomplished. Now, we look at this car, first of all, the paint colour. What way did you go there, Bill?
The wife wanted burgundy, and I wasn't too keen on the burgundy, so we compromised. We just went into the paint shop and come up with a colour with both Fleck and mica.
There you go. Yeah. Sometimes that can be the best colour combination, though. You know roughly what you want, but all you need to do is see a colour chart, and it doesn't really matter what type of paint colour it is or what brand that it belonged to in terms of manufacturing on a car. If it looks good and that's what you want, that's what you go for.
That's what we did, yes, yes.
I've always had a soft spot for these compact cars. They're Falcons on steroids, yes, with a few more extra trimmings. Galaxy inspired as well.
Yes.
I like what you've done, especially around the back of the car. Tell me that doesn't look fat. I love the back of the car with the little drop tank there. What you've done there, that's really cool.
Well, of the 4 donor cars, there was no suitable fuel tank, so I had to make one, and that was the easiest way to do it.
Yeah. Okay, tell us about the interior. What did you do there?
It's the original bench seats all through, and just reupholstered. Yeah, nothing changed on the inside.
And no soft piece across the top of the dash?
Not at the moment. I have been able to salvage 2 of them, both in very bad cracked and holes, but one of them I've been able to patch, and the upholsterer's got it at the moment.
Yeah. I know it was the first attempt for the manufacturers to go down that road for a safety device to have a padded dash, but the way you've got it there, I think it looks pretty cool the way it looks.
It turned out good.
Okay, before I let you go, Bill, tell us what you've done. I alluded to earlier, the sensational 340 stroker. Now, you don't see many 347s, but you do hear about them. Now, would you recommend the stroking to 347. Tell us what you did there.
Well, actually, I got all the machining done down in Townsville.
Did you have to take any meat from the inside of the block for the reach of the crank?
No. The crank fitted in okay. Yeah, right. Yep.
That's pretty cool. I mean, 342 out to 347. I mean, that's not messing around, is it? It's a decent upgrade as a percentage for the extra displacement.
Oh yes. Well, there was a 40th hour oversize as well, but there was no other chopping out of the block to get the crank in.
Brand new Holly carb sitting on top. You've gone all the way there. It looks neat. I like your work. Thanks for turning up here today, eh?
Thanks, Fletch.
Yeah. Good on you, Bill.
Nice talking to you.
Yeah, you too, mate. Good to catch up after all this time.
It is, yes. All right. Thank you.
Thanks, mate. You're welcome.
My passion for cars began when Nana and Pop bought their new Toyota Crown. It was Nana's, really. She loved that car. We went everywhere in it.
My passion now is just the same, even though my cars are a little different.
I've still got Nana's car. Couldn't part with it. And I reckon if she was here today, she'd be insured with Shannons too.
Call Shannons on 13 46 46. Shannons, insurance for motoring enthusiasts.
How would you like to double your garage space and work on your cars easily? Well, bring in your own hero with a Lift King hoist. Easy to install models in 1, 2 and 4 post styles. Check the very nifty Spider 2500 portable mini scissor lift. Hero hoists are either Oz certified or carry the Euro CE, your guarantee of quality construction and reliability. I regularly stand under my Lift King, so when you need a bit of a lift, why don't you go stand under yours? Martin's Panel Masters has 3 modern accident repair centres. They service Melbourne's inner, outer east and the fast-growing southeast corridor. Your vehicle will receive the best from state-of-the-art repair equipment finished beautifully from computer-based paint mixing systems, finished in Australian compliant spray booths. Martin's Panel Masters, located at Ferntree Gully and Berwick, also Box Hill Panels. If you have a restoration project, Hare and Forbes has the tools that you need. Shrinker stretchers, dollies, mallets, bead rollers, profile gauges, professional panel restoration kits, and so much more. Now I warn you, enter at your own risk because you will end up buying something. So come along to your Cap City store or browse and buy online at machineryhouse.com.au because Hare and Forbes has the range.
Moving through the 7th Annual Atherton Car Bike and Swap Meet, we have Steve. Now, Steve, you are the son of Leela and Donnie Blandford, the owner of Atherton Auto Wreckers. And on that note, well done. You guys play a big part at this event every year.
Yep, thank you, Fletch. Yep, we've been doing it for 7 years now, and it's going really well. It's getting bigger every year. And weather's turned it on for today, so that's really good for June up here.
Awesome stuff. Now, Steve, the reason I picked on you, when we do classic restos, it's not always about, as you know, a car that has been restored. I also have a lot of time for cars that have been preserved, have been left original, patinaed. Now, you've got a very special car here. We've got a stock standard 289 Mustang, just totally original in every way. This is actually a pretty rare car. What can you tell us about it?
I had it for about 4 years now. Picked it up locally. Pretty much what you see is what you get. That's how I bought it. Only done small things to it, fixed up things as it went along, usual hiccups as you start driving a car. But yeah, pretty much is exactly what it is.
Okay, Steve, so we're talking 1965 here. One thing that strikes me when I look at the interior is that full-length console.
Yeah, and it's good to have a console in it too, because I know some of them didn't come with it if you had the under-dash air conditioning and whatnot. So yeah, it's really nice to have that full console instead of just having, the gear stick in the middle of nowhere. So yeah.
Steve, we're looking at a car that's had a few paint jobs. It's not a trophy-winning car. That's not what it's about. It gets back to this preservation of an original classic here. It's got a 289 V8 as well. They were little screamers. That Windsor, it really was the beginning of putting Windsors on the map, wasn't it?
Yeah. They're a great motor, used in many famous other cars at Le Mans and whatnot. Yep. And then in the Mustang, and great motor. really reliable, don't have many dramas with it.
Even the original interior, Steve, it's obviously hasn't had too much of a hard life.
No, the front seats I'd say have been recovered at some stage, but other than that, everything's pretty much as it was.
So here's the big burning question. What are you going to do with the car? Are you going to leave it as is and just enjoy it, or down the track have you got plans for it?
I'd like to do it up. I've had a lot of people tell me leave it as because they love, seeing it basically as it is. But yeah, I've got another motor I'd like to build for it, and I'd like to respray it and straighten out the panels, sort it out a bit.
The trouble is when you go down that road, everything then has to be done beautifully and immaculately, doesn't it?
Yeah, surely does. A lot of time, a lot of work.
They say, well, when I say they, a lot of people say a lot of things to me, and I've heard many things over the years that are quite interesting. Lines such as they're only original once and all this sort of thing. I'll even admit my mentality years ago was to see a car like this and straight away the thought was no, back to a rolling shell, sandblast, full restoration. And that's the way I thought on a lot of things. But as time goes by and with people's budgets, what they have to spend on cars, this patina effect was being used a lot. People were keeping cars original, and I think that's taken on a whole new branch in our fraternity now.
Yeah, I definitely believe that, and I reckon it picks up a lot of character as it goes through the years and the trends that were around for those times too. So yeah, I definitely do agree with not going completely original. So yeah.
Okay, Steve, thank you very much, mate.
Yep, thanks, Fletch.
No, you're welcome, and being an integral part of such a great event here for 2018. Well done.
Yep, no worries. Thank you.
Okay, time for something big on today's show. How you doing, Owen?
Yeah, great, Fletch. How you doing, man?
Good, mate. Good. You brought two big girls here today.
Oh, well, they're me old pride and joys. I like a couple of old classics, mate, eh? Yeah. Like mucking around with them and seem to spend a lot of weekend polishing the chrome and stuff, but...
These are awesome. Every opportunity I get, I try and put a truck on Classic Restos. I know a few years ago, Series 1 and 2 on trucks, available online at classicrestos.com.au, where the die-hard truckies were showcased. The classic trucks, a lot of the older trucks, right up into the 80s. It was a great series in both cases, talking to the drivers, hearing the stories. Seriously, that saying of without trucks, Australia stops, there's nothing truer.
Yeah, that's true, mate. And when I was a young bloke and first got my licence, these rigs were brand new. And a mate of mine gave me one of these to drive for 6 weeks. Crikey, I thought I won the lotto. I didn't care if he didn't pay me.
You would have felt like a king driving it.
Oh, the adrenaline rush, mate. And you mean we just worked day and night in them days. And you mean you had to make the miles, you had to do all the hand loading and unloading and tarping. But that's what built this country into what it is today, isn't it?
Well, when you see a tarp load today with all the ropes and the nice hitches and knots, I mean, it's a craft, isn't it?
Oh, it certainly is. I can remember my first load going down the road there, and the bloke said, "What's this, a sailing ship coming, mate?" Felt embarrassed, I couldn't quite get it all right, but after a couple of times you learn a few tricks, and the old blokes were so good in them days, they'd actually come around and show you how to tie the corners in and get the tarps. And mate, when you got a tarped up load, really good, it looks awesome.
Oh, and in the old days, truck driving, it was a trade, wasn't it?
Oh, it certainly was, mate, yeah. And people back in those days, they were all mates, You'd get to the bloody places and wouldn't even go to the truck stop. You'd pull up on the side of the road and boil the billy, and someone would pull out a bit of old corned beef, and you'd knock up a sandwich out of the esky, no fridges. And, we didn't even have air conditioning in the first trucks I had, so... you'd be driving in the bull dust. Do you wind the window up to keep your truck clean, or do you wind it down because you're so hot,
It's just unreal. See what I mean? There's stories like this you could just listen to all day. Now, Owen, behind us, first cab off the rank, we've got the 1985 Kenworth. What can you tell us about that?
Well, that old W model, I picked it up of a bloke in Victoria, and he'd done most of the hard yards. I've spent a fair few dollars on it since I've had it. It's come out of Western Australia. It's a triple road train truck, owner-driver all its life. And it's got the Big Cam 400 in it. It's got an 18 speed Road Ranger on 6-rod. And he's done an awesome job doing it up, and I want to just keep it going,
Unreal. Beyond comprehension as to the amount of work that these old girls go through in their lives.
Oh, millions of kilometres, and in some rugged country too,
And Owen, out the back of this one, Rockwell suspension, 44,000-pound diffs.
Yeah, that's the back end in that day. That was a common thing on the 6-rod, and then the old Superliner, she runs on the Camelback on the original MACK diffs. The Kenworth is my favourite, but the old Superliner was always a classic, and I find they're a collector's item,
Owen, tell us about the Superliner.
Well, like I say, I'm not a super Mack fan, but a lot of people are, and I do enjoy driving it. You mean, they're a little bit different at times, but something that I always wanted when I was a kid, the Superliner, the UD dealer sold Mack, so I thought, oh, well, I always wanted a Mack, but we didn't need one, so Dad said, you're not getting one of them. So later on, I thought, I'll just try and find one, and I want to restore it all. I got a lot of bits and pieces at home in the shed. And
So correct me if I'm wrong, when the Superliners came out, 500 horsepower and V8s?
yes, yep. They had the V8 Mack engine, very torquey engine, those 500 V8s, and they had the Mack 12-speed Maxi Torque gearbox, and you can put them in low gear in the bog cog, mate, and fair dinkum, you could get out and crawl faster.
There's so much respect for both brands of truck here, Mack and Kenworth. Two biggest names on the planet virtually when it comes to trucks. And there's die-hard Kenworth guys, die-hard Mack guys. You've got one of each. Quickly, the characteristics between the two trucks. What do you favour about the Kenworth, one over the other?
I just find the Kenworth myself with the Cummins in it, it's a little bit, I find it nicer to drive as far as you don't have to drive it so hard. It tends to ride a little bit better. I mean, other guys, they think the other way, but I find the old Camelback and the Mack with the short front springs, they're a little bit rough, you know.
Owen, been a pleasure talking to you, mate.
Yeah, great to meet you, Fletch, and I hope you enjoy your stay in Atherton. You know, we think we've got a pretty good part of the world here.
You do. I've got to meet a lot of fantastic truck drivers through the history of classic Restos, and you've just added yourself to the list, mate. Well done.
Thanks, Fletch. Good on you, mate. Take care, eh? You too, mate. Bye.
Every weekend around Australia, motoring enthusiasts get together to share their passion for cars and bikes. It's a passion that brings us together. All sorts of people, all sorts of cars and bikes. From the classics of today to the classics of tomorrow. At Shannons, we understand enthusiasts. So when it comes to insurance, it's got to be Shannons. Shannons, insurance for motoring enthusiasts. Call 13 46 46 for a quote.
How would you like to double your garage space and work on your cars easily? Well, bring in your own hero with a Lift King hoist. Easy to install models in 1, 2 and 4 post styles. Check the very nifty Spider 2500 portable mini scissor lift. Hero hoists are either Oz certified or carry the Euro CE, your guarantee of quality construction and reliability. I regularly stand under my Lift King, so when you need a bit of a lift, why don't you go stand under yours? Martin's Panel Masters has 3 modern accident repair centres. They service Melbourne's inner, outer east and the fast-growing southeast corridor. Your vehicle will receive the best from state-of-the-art repair equipment finished beautifully from computer-based paint mixing systems, finished in Australian compliant spray booths. Martin's Panel Masters, located at Ferntree Gully and Berwick, also Box Hill Panels. Hare and Forbes Machinery House has been family owned and operated for over 85 years, and it's easy to see why. Planning on welding? Look at these welding tables and clamps, air compressors and different air tools, sandblasting cabinets, through to spray guns. Everyone is welcome at Machinery House. There are competitive freight rates around Australia, and you can buy online at machineryhouse.com.au. So remember, Hare and Forbes has the range. And making my way through the 7th Annual Atherton Car, Bike and Swap Meet, the quality of vehicles here is one thing, but the amount of car clubs that have turned up to support today is as equally as impressive. And to give you some example, the All Ford Club from Far North Queensland have parked up here behind me, and some of their cars are really something out of the box. Well, it's time for a bike now on today's show. How you doing, Steve?
I'm well, thanks, mate. Thank you.
That's good. You've got yourself a classic here.
Yeah, it used to be a Sydney police bike just after the war. Then a chap from Newcastle bought it, and it ended up in Darwin.
What year are we talking, Steve?
1944, this one.
1944 Indian. Have a go at this. It is remarkable. There's quite a few bikes here today. There's a few classics, but this is definitely the oldest one here. It is amazing. Have you partially restored it, Steve? Tell us what you've done.
I've just done the engine up, the transmission and the wheel bearings, and I left the paint as it was.
Where did you find it, Steve?
I was working in a small fishing village, and this guy walked in with an Indian T-shirt, and I said, "Where did you get that from?" And he said to me that there's a one for sale over in Alice Springs. So I rang this chap up and he said to me, this one's not for sale, mate, but there's one in Darwin. And he gave me the telephone number. I got it.
Were you actually specifically after an Indian?
Yes, because I was watching the Just Bikes magazines and they were slowly going up and up in price. And I thought, I better do something now.
Engine spec, Steve, tell us what's going on there.
Oh, she's a 1200cc side valve. And me personally, I don't think anything sounds better than a V-twin side valve just under a little bit of load.
Well, on that note, we'll end on listening to Steve's bike. It's been wonderful catching up with you, mate, and thank you for bringing this masterpiece. You found it in the Ark, and I love it. Good on you, Steve.
Yep. Thanks, Fletch. You take care, eh?
I will. Thanks, mate. Have a classic bike? Have it with Shannons. And if you have anything to do with a classic bike, car or a truck club, make sure that it's listed with the Shannons Club for all the world to see. Find out more information when you visit shannons.com.au. Time for Wim now. How you doing, Wim?
Yeah, very well, thank you, Fletch.
That's good. Thanks for hanging around. Big day.
Yes, a really good day, eh? And beautiful weather. Couldn't ask for anything better.
Have you enjoyed yourself?
Yes, I have, very much so. We've come up from Innisfail today and it's worth it.
Isn't it nice therapy just to spend a day with the cars and the people?
Yes, definitely.
Now, last interview on today's show, a 1962 Chev Belair. We're looking at Australian-produced car. It's right-hand drive.
Yes.
What can you tell us, Wim?
I've had this car 18 months and all I know about it is it was purchased by a bloke in Townsville and he took it to his mum's place in Charters Towers and it sat in a shed for 21 years.
Wow.
Yes, and then he sold it and it got done up in Townsville and it has been used for quite a few years as a wedding car.
Wow.
And I bought it off the business that had the wedding, yeah.
1962, to be driving around in a brand new Chevy here in Australia. What a huge thing that would have been for somebody.
Oh.
I mean, 1962, there are a lot of people that would have been finding it hard to afford a brand new Holden or a brand new Valiant, let alone one of these things.
Yeah, a lot of people couldn't afford even a brand new Vauxhall back then, let alone a Chev, yeah. Yep.
So do you know who the original owner may have been?
All I know is a bloke bought it in a car yard in Townsville and he sold it for $100 when he left to go back. He was from Kalgoorlie and he did the season in Garoo.
$100.
Yeah.
We hear this, don't we?
Yeah,
but we have to keep in mind that once upon a time, $100 was a considerable amount of money.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And old cars were just old cars.
Yeah, yep.
I think these Chevys are beautiful. I really do. We look at the paint, gorgeous red, white top, red interior. To think it has stood the test of time. It's been, I can tell there has been some work done to the car, obviously. Nice to see the aesthetics, though, when we look at the original 1976 Queensland registration label there on that, on the quarter window.
Yep. When it run out, they put it in the shed just before she run out of rego, and no one's taken the label off.
Now make sure that you leave that rego sticker there, Wim. I think that it'd be a fairly unfair policeman to book you for having that old sticker there.
Oh, for sure. And it's got a bit of history behind it, that sticker, hasn't it? You know, been put in the shed in Charters Towers in '76. So yeah.
We look around the back of the car, Wim. The shape of that rear with those tail lights, I reckon that's a stunning style for the Chevy of that era.
Yeah, of course it is. Yeah. Very, very, very up to date, wasn't it? Way back then. Yeah.
A lot of class, Wim.
Yeah. The round. Like the LED round lights are back in fashion now, aren't they? And they had round lights way back then.
It's amazing how some technologies appear to do a 360.
Yes,
they do a big full circle.
The wheel goes right round, doesn't it? Yeah.
Mate, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you very much, Fletch, and enjoy the rest of your time up here in North Queensland.
Thank you. It's the sort of place that they make you feel welcome. I mean, Fletch doesn't want to go home.
No.
But have to, but it's always a nice place to know I can come back to.
Yeah. Thanks a lot, Fletch.
Thanks,
Appreciate
Wim. Well, how cool was this week's episode? And getting to interview Tony, the principal of the Atherton High School here. And here I am, the last to leave the grounds. It's almost as though I've been kept in after school. Well, I hope you've really enjoyed this week's episode of Classic Restos, the 7th Annual Atherton Car, Bike and Swap Meet. Great little event here for 2018. Check social media pages and possibly get it into your diary for 2019. As I say at the end of every episode of Classic Restos, no matter where you're watching the show from, until next week, please ride and drive safe. I'm Fletch, and I thank you very much for watching. You can like and follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/ClassicRestosTV and watch catch-up episodes at shannons.com.au. Classic Restos is proudly brought to you by Shannons, insurance for motoring enthusiasts. Hare and Forbes Machinery House, Pace Farm, Hero Hoists, and Martin's Panel Masters.